No matter where you head out to, you're going to have problems. There's two companies that make it real easy to get to your destination and your hunting area easier, like Silencer Central and Safari Specialty Importers. I'm KJ. You found the right place. We go all over this little blue orb, sharing stories and tactics about chasing wild game. Now, let's get on the hunt. Welcome in, all you Gun Talk hunters. I am your host, KJ, and this episode is brought to you by Remington Ammo, Savage Arms, Range Ready Studios, and Vortex. We appreciate your support. We really do. So we range the country, and we really search out and create show themes dedicated to certain subjects. This one happens to be traveling with firearms, traveling with your trophies, and traveling with suppressors. None better than Joe Kurtenbach of Silencer Central joining us from Virginia, and Bradley Johnson over in South Carolina of Safari Specialty Importers and co-founder of Safari Specialty Importers. Wyatt Fetner joins us. Welcome in, guys. I'm glad you're here. But first, let's go out into Virginia with Joe Kurtenbach of Silencer Central. Welcome in, Joe.
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. We have known each other maybe far too long.
In your previous lives, yeah, we got around a bit to begin with, and when I was just up and coming, you were already flat brim KJ out there, and we got to do a lot of cool stuff, especially with your old boss Gary and everything. Yeah, good times.
We had great times, and you're one of those guys that when I was putting this Gun Talk hunt together to talk about, traveling, and there's a mystique that goes around like traveling with suppressors, and Silencer Central makes it super easy, but there's getting to your hunt with your suppressor and crossing state lines and going through TSA and all this stuff. But I really want to jump into with you on what you can and can't do when traveling across state lines with suppressors.
Yeah, perfect. So I think the first thing is to address kind of a misconception. So a lot of people think that the same rules that apply to other NFA items like machine guns and SBRs also apply to suppressors. And namely, that is, you need to fill out an ATF form for temporary export and transport and interstate transport. And that is not the case. Suppressors are exempt from that rule. There is no additional form you have to fill out. So my rule of thumb is treat it like a firearm. So think about the states you have to cross, think about the most restrictive state, and pack accordingly. Be prepared to package your suppressor the same way you would a firearm through those restrictive states. One of the great things about the United States of America is even though there are state-by-state regulations, we have overarching protection which allows you to travel and transport your firearm from one destination to another. And that same protection applies to suppressors. So if, say, I'm traveling north, I'm at I'm actually at Silencer Central East over here in Virginia working remotely. And if I have to travel north through Maryland, for example, I need to package it in a hard case, lock it, and have it out of possession. And that's just a rule for firearms. Same thing for suppressors.
Man, there was an instance last year where a guy asked me like, well, how do I travel with, my suppressors and what's that process look like? And I told him the exact same thing. I was like, man, treat it as if it was like a firearm in a case and everything. And he goes, well, last time I flew with him, I just carried him on. And he got away with it. He carried it on.
I was about to say, well, that's an option, but really it's not. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
So let's talk about flying with them real quick, because this is another case where the rule of thumb still stands. Treat it like a firearm. It should go right into a locked, hard-sided case. Follow all your airline-specific requirements. You still need to check in at the desk and get the orange card filled out. And I think the additional piece with a suppressor, whether you're traveling by land or air, is it's a safe bet to have a copy of your tax stamp with you basically at all times. Now, I have them all digitized. Companies like Silencer Central make it super easy to just log into your portal and see your stamps right there. But honestly, to save yourself the hassle, any technical glitches, having a hard copy is really important. And I would also recommend, if you are using an NFA trust, and that trust is not explicitly like your name, like the Joe Kurtenbach trust, you may want to have a copy of that as well, just to clarify any issues. Like if they look at the trust and it's, ABC LLC trust, they have a hard time linking that intuitively to Joe Kurtenbach's driver's license. You know what I mean? So it's just a little bit easier maybe to have a copy of that trust as well, or at least like the formation document that has your name on it.
Man, it's funny like we are in lockstep, because when I think about like, okay, if I go out and I travel across state lines, get all your paperwork, I have all my trust in my truck glove box, like they're in an envelope in there, and then I have them at the hunting cabin, like I've got them there, like I've got them stashed everywhere just in case. Like I even have one stuffed away in my hunting pack just in case I'm out somewhere and I don't know why I would need it, but like I have copies of all my information like stuffed everywhere just in case I need it for some reason, which I never have. But I mean, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah. It's a good belt and suspenders solution just to kind of have it. The other thing too is keep in mind, a lot of the e-forms, you're not even getting a physical stamp anymore. So you do have to go and print that off from either the ATF website or Silencer Central or wherever you got your NFA item. And you make the point about it's just easier to have them just in case. Technically by law, only an ATF agent could actually ask you to present that documentation. But it's like, how much easier is it? Like, do you want to have that conversation with the sheriff's deputy that pulled you over? It's kind of like, if you can just have it and it doesn't hurt you to just show it, I'm sure it's going to smooth out your day. So that's why I recommend just having those physical copies.
So something like this just happened to me, not with a suppressor, because I was not going to take a suppressor in Canada. However, I go and I check the rules on, traveling with firearms across the Canadian border. And I read specifically, and I should have printed it out. Always print out the documentation in which you're going to like take to travel with. And if you're traveling with stuff that they're like, they frown upon it, but it's a rule that like they have to abide by. So I was going into Canada with 2 12-round MDT magazines for my bolt gun, completely legal. Those were seized at the border. And they said, nope, they have to be, I think, 5 rounds or less. And I'm like, well, I guess I misinterpreted, but I didn't want to fight that fight. Like I didn't want to like go, well, I think you're wrong. And they say, you know what? You've driven 28 hours up until this point. You can turn around and go back if you'd like. And I'd be like, yeah, they're all yours. So
yeah, I mean, we live and breathe this stuff. We work in the industry. You have to remember that a lot of, whether it's Border Patrol or the state trooper or whoever, they have a lot of other jobs that they're doing as their primary focus. You are probably going to have more information about the topic at hand than they are, probably more expertise. But do you really want to fight that fight? Save yourself the hassle, have your documentation.
Dude, yes, have your documentation. But I tell you what, man, when they seize those magazines and he was like, you have to declare the amount that they are. And I'm sitting there going, okay, the base plate is X amount. The magazine is $115. I'm like, $150. And he goes, is that for both? I go, no, that's for one. He goes, ouch. And he says, I guess those are mine now.
Lots of sympathy then.
But I mean, I went to 3 different people, a conservation officer. I went to a sporting goods store, and then I forget where else. Like it was another hunter, and I was like, so they confiscated these magazines, and they go, oh no, you got the wrong Border Patrol agent. Like he's wrong. Like you can buy this, and they sold me like you have to. Don't leave stuff behind. Like you just have to have forms out of forms to buy stuff. So I bought a magazine in Canada and I had to take hey, this is the gun I am buying this for. Please allow me to buy something from you.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, having your
right now, don't take your suppressor to Canada. They don't like them. We got 42 states in the union here that they're legal. 40 you can hunt with them, but Canada hasn't joined us yet.
So, and we are going to talk here in a little bit with some folks that travel internationally, and they are up on like what forms to have and stuff like that, and they can somewhat help you point you in the right direction. But importing is their business. So, traveling internationally with suppressors, is that any different?
Yeah, so I'll be honest here, it's still a gray area. Like we have requested specific documentation, specific procedures, and they have not been provided by the governing agencies. The good news is we're also not hearing a ton of stories about people getting hemmed up at the border for returning with a suppressor. So my rule of thumb is, once again, treat it like a firearm. Like, what would you do for a firearm? You'd go get your 4457 from CBP before you leave, and which is that document that says, I own this, this is a serial number, this is a description. Technically, you don't even need that because your tax stamp and trust could also serve as proof of ownership prior to traveling. But again, it's like, do you want to fight that fight or wear the belt and suspenders? So the most important thing I would say for international travel is know the laws of your destination, because even like Africa, for example, not every country's laws are the same. Some you can buy them in the convenience store, some you'll go to jail for them. So know before you go, treat it like a firearm, take your documentation. I wish we had clearer guidance on what exactly was needed, but that doesn't exist right now. The good news is we're not really hearing about people getting hemmed up for it.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's that. So hunt destinations, and we talk about traveling for hunting. We've talked about like traveling with, certain restricted goods. Any hunts stand out to you on like what to watch out for? Like any experiences that you've had on getting hemmed up?
No, I mean, I've been pretty lucky, but I've also prepared pretty rigorously. I would say, interestingly, I will give you one story, and it's an international travel story, and your old boss was there. So we're getting ready to go to Africa, and it's my first time going to Africa. Not only is it my first time going to Africa, it's my first time doing a big game handgun hunt. So I've got these Smith & Wesson X-frame revolvers, and we're getting ready to go to Africa. And who is the partner on this hunt besides Smith & Wesson? EOTech. And so we have these red dot reflex sights from EOTech. Interesting thing, on those red dot sights, they say for military use.
Oh.
Now, this is just a recognition of the fact that they deem their quality to be military grade, to be proven out, and they are. They are bomb-proof. Those holographic sights are great, and they are so proud of them, they engraved for military use on the side. I got lucky enough to have a Border Patrol agent decide that instead of saying for military use, what was actually engraved on those red dot sites was for military use only. And right there in the basement of Dulles Airport, he threatened to send me to jail. So luckily, was able to contact the supervisor, clear the whole thing up. I gave poor old Jeff Puckett, another friend of ours, about a heart attack over that one, because he's law enforcement too, and he's like, what are they doing? But so yeah, that's the kind of things. There again, you will probably have more expertise in the area than the law enforcement or governing officials you need to talk to about it. At least those frontline folks. So be polite, be courteous, be early, and have your documentation.
Yep. That's good words to live by. Great words to live by. Joe Kurtenbach of Silencer Central. Hey, where can they go find out more for Silencer Central?
Yeah, silencercentral.com. It's way too easy. And right now, till the end of the year, while we're waiting for the tax stamp to go away, at least the $200 portion of it, we're covering those tax stamps on, I think, about 100 different suppressor models from all your favorite suppressor makers. So yeah, stop by at silencercentral.com and pick you up a suppressor.
Hey, and they just launched the Banish Backcountry Bugle, so you're going to want to go check that out too. All right, hey, we're going to take a real quick break, but when we come back, you're going to want to hang on because Safari Specialty Importers, Bradley and Wyatt, are on the horn next. Looking to trim a few LBs out of your pack or just your firearm? Check out the Savage 110 Carbon Predator. 2 swing swivel studs, matte black carbon steel receiver, 2-piece Weaver style bases, proof research barrel. Yeah, it's carbon wrap, so that's where some of the weight savings is going to come. And you won't be disappointed because they offer it in a lot of different variations. 6mm arc, 223 Remington, 22-250, a favorite of mine, 308, 65 Creedmoor, and 300 Blackout. Now, you're talking about weight. You're talking about, well, how much really is it going to weigh? Trust me, you're going to be able to carry this thing all day. It's under that 7-pound range, so I promise you it's accurate too. So trust Savage 110 Carbon Predator for all your weight savings. Looking to level up your hunt and tighten up those groups? Well, look no further than Remington Ammo. Yeah, the stuff in the green box is super accurate, and they've got everything from hunting ammo all the way to NRL like match ammo. So check those out. Remington Premier, from Premier Tip AccuTip to match grade ammunition, all in that green box you love, you trust, and you adore. Find it all at remington.com. Tired of your range time being just mag dumps and Instagram flexing? Enter Range Ready Training, where Director of Awesomeness and everything else, Chris Serino, turns keyboard warriors into actual warriors. Or something like that. Pretty dang close, I would say. Yeah, the guy's been there, done that. Pistol, check. Rifle, check. Yeah, we got it all. Force on force, we do that every now and then too. Bring your bruises, instructor development. Welcome to the Thunderdome of learning. It's more than training, it's range ready, because real life doesn't come with a respawn button. Need a laser rangefinder that doesn't guess? Get the Vortex Ranger HD 3000 with 3,000 yard ranging capability, a red display you can actually read in any light, and HCD mode for angle compensation distance. It's like having a spotter in your pocket. Hey, here's a pro tip for you. Before your hunt, you need to go out, you need to range landmarks like trees or rocks around your blind so you're not scrambling when that game shows up. Built rugged, backed by the Vortex VIP warranty, it's the Ranger HD 3000. Hey, get your heads up. Heads up, right up here. Tactical treasure hunters, beware. Optics Planet just became your new favorite adult toy store for gear. Let's get that out of the way. Want scopes, red dots, night vision, and stuff totally you probably don't need but will absolutely buy anyway? Yeah, I thought so. Use promo code GUNTALK at checkout and get 5% off your order. That's right, 5%. Not 2, not 3, 5. Like the fingers you'll use to type that code in while pretending this wasn't my idea. So go to Optics Planet, check it out, enter code GUNTALK, and get your 5% off. All right, we're back with Gun Talk Hunt, and we are talking travel tips and travel. Like, how do you get your trophies back? Because anytime I travel, that's the number one thing, because I want those memories back, and I want the meat back when I'm traveling stateside. But my next two guests are very well versed in getting your trophies back. It's Wyatt Fetner, co-founder of Safari Specialty Importers, and Bradley Johnson. Welcome in, guys.
Great to be here, KJ.
Well, howdy.
So, Wyatt, let's start with you on maybe how are you getting these trophies back, and how did you start to figure out that there needed to be a service for guys to be able to effectively and efficiently get your trophies back?
No, definitely. So, when we all think of, hunting Africa for the first time, we've probably read Horn of the Hunter, or we've, just got done, following Teddy Roosevelt on his trip, etc. And for those guys back then, it was, throw everything in a box, put it on a steamer, and you'll see it back in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian when you're done. Unfortunately, in our modern day, there is a lot more paperwork and process involved with that. And so, in my own experiences from my own first hunt, went over there, had a wonderful time, and the customs broker that I engaged to handle the clearing of my trophies when they reached the United States, they got everything back except the ostrich I had specifically shot to make a wedding present for my wife and I, a pair of matching boots for us. And they weren't very helpful about trying to find it. And so that is what actually led me to Safari Specialty Importers and knowing that there's got to be a better way to do this. And at the end of the day, what differentiates us from other folks that do this in the industry is that hunting trophies is our only business. It is the only thing we focus on, and that makes focus on being the subject matter experts.
Bradley, I'm going to jump over to you real quick, and I'm telling you what, if you know Bradley, if you've heard him on the show before, the guy is ate up with old guns and African hunts, and I'm telling you, you really are. And I look to you as far as like importing those trophies and how you manage that. And what would you say that, like, maybe the first time guy going over into an international hunt, Africa, let's say, because you guys have that down pat, what's something they typically overlook that would require your services?
So really just overlooking our services in general. I can't tell you the amount of calls I get every week from people who are like, hey, I just got a call from an exporter in Africa, and apparently I need your services. On my second safari, in which I had to handle all the trophy importation myself, that water buck that's mounted right behind me was actually in that shipment. And I had no idea what I was doing, and I used a customs broker that I don't even know is around anymore, and they didn't help me with any information. I had no idea what I was getting into, and I got a call from a local airport warehouse saying, hey, you owe us this many thousands of dollars in storage fees because we've been trying to get a hold of you, and your stuff's not here.
Oh.
And then I show up to the warehouse at Louis Armstrong Airport, and they just had a giant crate in the parking lot. And they're like, all right, we're leaving. Get this out of the way before we come back tomorrow. Like, I don't want clients to have that experience. And one of the reasons why people should engage us, especially before you go on your hunt, is let's get you in our system. Let's get the paperwork done. And then I can manage the expectations. I can give you a ballpark. Hey, it's going to cost this much. You live here. Okay. It's going to cost this much to get it shipped to you. And what we do is we handle everything from door to door. So you're not going to have to worry about having to go to a warehouse, pay storage fees, actually pick up your trophies. None of that. We have it delivered right to your house. We're arguably the most competitively priced company out there. And, like Wyatt said, this is all we do. So, we're not worrying about soft goods from China and food from Mexico and wine from Europe. This stuff is all we do. And you're dealing with people who have actually been there and done it, and I think that's really important.
That really is important. Wyatt, jumping back over to you. So when you talk about, a first-time Africa hunter who wants to just jump down there, what would you say, like, the top 3 countries, like, that are very friendly to hunters and the places that you guys have the most success with in a working relationship? Where would you start directing people?
Yeah, so for first-time hunter doing an international trip, Africa is kind of always the dream, and so good starting countries would be either South Africa or Namibia. Both countries have an abundance of plains game. There are an abundance of operators, very good operators who will put on just a heck of a hunt for you. White glove service, for dinner, etc. You will go back home having gained 10 pounds just from all of the good food that you're eating. So you can't go wrong as a first-time hunter to either of those areas. And then once you have kind of gotten your feet wet, at least in Africa, in either of those countries, that's where you can then start branching out to become more adventuresome in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia, etc. For some, those areas have some specific animals that you want to chase after, etc. And then outside of Africa, a lot of people, for some reason in their mind, because they here in the U.S. when we think Europe, we're thinking major European cities. There is wonderful hunting areas still in Europe. They're vast, open, and both very easily accessible, from those major cities. And it's a bonus point because you can take your wife with you, and she can go, enjoy herself while you're in the field at the same time.
Go. I don't mind that because that's an easier sell to my wife, right?
Exactly.
So we kind of talked with Joe about like importing those silencers and stuff like that, and I think it's important for our listeners to know that you guys don't handle on the front end like the importation or getting your guns and everything over to those locations. You guys primarily deal in getting stuff back. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Correct. I do have some quick tips though from personal experience.
We want to hear them.
One of my good friends, who I'm not going to name, he is an industry guy, decided, you know what? I've been to Africa 30 times. I don't need a travel agent. I'm going to book all my flights myself. He does not live at the I guess port of exit, the U.S. city he was leaving the U.S. from.
Right.
Okay? And arrives there with his really expensive, dangerous game gun, where the lady at the check-in counter says, this airline doesn't allow firearms.
Huh?
So he booked the flights himself without going through a travel agent, not realizing and reading the rules that the flight he got a really cheap ticket from does not allow firearms. So what does he do? He has to call his mother-in-law, who happens to live in that city, ask her to come to the airport. Luckily, he had a long layover. Give her the gun and borrow a camp gun on his hunt. And another thing I will advise, and I'm going to sound like, for lack of a better term, a FUD here, okay? But I have a lot of friends who have hunted in countries where they typically don't see a lot of traveling hunters, right? Like, you go to South Africa, you break out a long gun case, the cops know exactly what it is. They know why you're there.
Right.
Namibia, same thing. Zimbabwe, Mozambique, they see a lot of hunters every year. And so that way, they know what's coming. Now, you go to countries that don't typically see a lot of hunters or a lot of big game hunters.
Right.
Okay. Cameroon, Argentina, a lot of Eastern European countries, right? Some of the mid-Asian countries. Mm-hmm. And you show up with a bolt gun that's got a chassis and a folding stock and a big magazine sticking out of it. Going back to what Joe said earlier, you might have more knowledge of the law than they do, but not only that, the only firearms these people have ever seen might be the AK they have in their hands at the guard checkpoint. So to them, you can't sit there and explain to them, this is a bolt action rifle, this is not a military gun. They're going to look at it and they're going to go, that's a military rifle. I have a buddy that wanted to take, I forget what it was, but it was some sort of a bolt gun in a chassis, and he wanted to take it on his plains game hunt in the savannah in Cameroon. And his PH asked for a picture of the rifle, and his PH called him and goes, you're going to borrow my Winchester Model 70 and 375 because they will seize that at the border.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't matter that it's legal. Everything is about perception. Yeah. The same thing that happened to you, KJ, with those magazines.
Yeah.
Just because you are in the right and it is legal by law does not necessarily mean that the guy who's at the border guard station is going to know what it is.
And that's what's so frustrating about it, because when I'm traveling, and I know all you guys are the same, we want to go by the letter of the law. We do not seek out loopholes and ways to get around, the law. Like we strive to be accurate.
I also had a client, and this is in South Africa, right, where they see a ton of stuff. And he missed his flight home. He had to put his wife on the plane, and it took him 3 days before he could leave South Africa.
Ooh.
Because he decided to put his magazines, which were unloaded, but his AICS magazines in his checked bag, but not with his gun, or in his gun case. And when he goes through the security at OR Tambo, they flag it. They say, you've got firearms parts in your checked bag that are not in your hard case. And they brought him in a room and called the cops.
Oh.
And it took him 3 days to get another flight back. They were able to sort it out in the matter of about 5 hours, but it took him 3 days to get on another flight home.
That's brutal.
And then what happened to myself, I was on my honeymoon, and this is completely my fault. I left 2 7x57 cartridges in the inside pocket of my jacket, which was in my carry-on bag. And I didn't realize it. I went through 3 airports before they caught it. But they caught it at OR Tambo.
Almost made
And I get pulled into the office, and there's this customs guy, and he's got the ammo sitting on the table.
Yeah.
And my wife at this point is freaking out. This was on my honeymoon. And we're trying to fly home, and the customs guy's like, I'm going to call the cops. And I'm like, okay, call the police. We're going to sort this out.
Right.
And bottom line, he didn't really know what to do, and the people he called didn't really know what to do. And what's actually funny is my wife was getting very impatient and worried. And he said, sir, can you please ask your wife to wait in the other room? She's causing a bit of a scene. Mallory pulls out a chair beside him and sits down and says, I'm not leaving till we sort this. And he hands us back our passports, and he said, your wife is making a scene. Please leave. And we were able to make our flight.
That, knowing her, that doesn't surprise me one bit. She's like, I'm not leaving.
Just double check every single pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
And listen, the same thing applies to trophies, right?
Yeah.
There are things a lot of people don't know. So legally, and Wyatt and I are very open about this, right? The service we offer is something, if someone did their research and they really, put their mind to it, they could do it themselves, right? Yeah. They don't necessarily need us. We have a client who decided, now this is before he met us, he was going to import his red stags from Scotland himself.
Right.
And he filled out the wrong form, and customs seized his stag and burned it.
Ooh, that's gut-wrenching. Yeah.
So, you're dealing with sometimes laws and regulations. They change like the days of the week, especially in other countries.
They do.
And that's what you pay us for.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and it's just how it goes. You know what? Hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do final shots. We're going to open up all the lines. And so we're going to bring Joe back in, and we're just going to kind of finish out this conversation. And I want to start with Joe. Joe, do you have any final shots that you want to get out there?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I would actually echo everything Wyatt and Bradley are saying. I think for the cost, when you're looking at a big trophy hunt, especially abroad, the costs associated with hiring some facilitators, both in the States and in the country you're going to, are very minor compared to the overall package, and they can make your experience just a dream. A lot of places they'll meet you at the airport when you get off the plane and walk you all the way through customs till you're meeting your guide or whoever's taking you to your lodge. Final thoughts, man. I think suppressors are here, and one of the least talked about reasons to get into them is the reduced recoil. We all think about the noise mitigation, but if you want to get that trophy and import it back, it's pretty important to be good at what you're doing. Yeah. And I think a lot more people, they think about the noise reduction, but really the recoil reduction it really helps you not flinch. It creates a much better practicing experience, which means you practice more. And so when the time comes, I think it's really an essential piece of equipment to be ready to pull the trigger on that trophy animal. You invested the time and money in those kinds of adventures, invest a little time and money in the equipment that's going to make you best prepared to seize that moment.
Make it count 100%. All right, Bradley, what do you got for us?
Yeah, get all your ducks in a row before the hunt, and not just with my services. Read your gun laws, coordinate with your PH, with whoever the guide and the outfitter is, with the booking agent, and use whatever services they recommend.
Yep.
Okay. And also, just to piggyback on what Joe said, recoil reduction is something that people really overlook when it comes to cans. I have a Steyr Scout 2 and 308 that I've got a Silencer Central banish on, and I took a new shooter out the other day who had a horrible flinch, and she was able to overcome her flinch with a 308 and be able to hunt with it because she wasn't scared of the gun anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, it echoes through the whole show right now. Is be prepared on the front end for sure. Wyatt, what do you got for us? Final shot.
Final shot is both with planning an international hunt, trying to get your stuff back, and also if it's your first time diving into the suppressor world, don't let the fear of the unknown, or if you thought that it is a complicated process, hold you back from doing it. There are resources available, there are services and all of it to make it an easy process so that hunters can go out and enjoy, these experiences with it.
100%. All right, here's my final shot. My final shot is this. You prepare early for success on the back end. And whether it's with Safari Specialty, Importers, or Silencer Central, both of those companies will walk you through the process. And that's one of the reasons why I paired these two up, is because they are the best at what they do. Whether it's start to finish, getting your Form 4 filled out and getting your suppressor delivered to your door, or getting those trophies that you have worked your butt off for home to your doorstep, they're both bringing the excitement home to you. That's my final shot, and I'm KJ. Remember, folks, keep those muzzles pointing in the right direction and always be on the hunt.